turn, I feel movement on my right again, and there's this portal that opens up, and I call it the ancestor portal. I see that, and I see my ancestors within the portal, and there are people that I recognize on the plane, but also people on this plane, on the earth plane, but also people that I recognize there, but I wouldn't have recognized here as my ancestors. So it went back quite a ways. And I'm being drawn to that portal. And as I'm being drawn to it, I see another portal open in the distance, and it's as bright and it looks like the sun, yellow gold, beautiful, beautiful, bright uh, tunnel or portal, as bright as the sun, but it didn't hurt my eyes. And I see this, and I focus on that, and I don't focus on the ancestor tunnel. And as I focus on that, being drawn to it. I see a figure walk out of the portal, and the figure is in a white robe, and as he comes near to me, I recognize him as Jesus Christ, who I call Yeshua.
I'm here today with Sharon Sananda Kumara, who has been helping people with her practice as a certified psychic medium, channel, spiritual counselor, life coach, and hypnotherapist specializing in past life therapy and experiencer memory recovery. She is the founder of the Kumara Academy of Transformation, offering a variety of metaphysical classes. Sharon discovered her gifts and abilities after her second near death experience in 2001. Her mission is to help as many people as possible to remember their true selves. I admire that mission, Sharon, so much. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, well, thank you, Tia. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Well,
Yes.
the honor and the privilege is all mine. I can tell you that. You've had so many experiences, a lifetime of near death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences. You have many gifts. I almost don't even know where to start, but let's go ahead and start with, I guess, maybe your most impactful experience. I think that was your second near death experience.
Yes, that was very impactful for me. Actually, it was when my stepfather died in 98 that was the turning point for me. Growing up, I didn't remember a lot of my childhood, which I'll explain a little bit later, but I just worked in as a in administration and bookkeeping and things like that, and I partied. I figured that's the way life is, I'm happy like this until my stepfather died, who I was very close to. And I needed to know what happens when we die. I was raised Catholic and didn't give me a lot of answers. So I wasn't really a good Catholic. Neither were my parents. And after he died, I was having experiences of sleep paralysis, and it was spontaneous. I didn't induce it, and I didn't understand it. So I started having out of body experiences I didn't understand. And I realized that in 98 and 99, there wasn't a lot of information on this type of thing. And I thought I was dying actually. And so I started inducing out of body experiences because I realized I was able to find my dad that way. And I was reading everything about the afterlife, which was books on mediumship. So that's kind of how it started for me. That was a turning point for me. And I started, and then my psychic abilities, which I had as a kid, which I think we all have as kids, started coming to the surface around then a little bit because I saw my dad right after he passed. And then in 2001, a couple years later, was the icing on the cake, so to speak, a big, big icing on the cake. And I was partying. That was the lifestyle we had. And my girlfriends and I went inner tubing down the Guadalupe River in San Antonio, Texas. And we had a really good day. We At the end of the day, we got on this shuttle bus to go back to where our cars were parked at the outrigger. And it was a small school bus. I went to get on the bus and it was full, and it was pulling a trailer that was carrying all of our ice chests, a lot of people's ice chests and inner tubes. And they were saying, and I actually turned around to get off the bus, and they were saying, "Oh, come on, you can stand in the aisleway," because it's just 2 or 3 miles to the outrigger where we were, where they picked us up. So, and there was people behind us. I was the first one in our group, and so we piled on, and I was it's the back door, the back exit. It was a school bus, basically. It's one of those small school buses. So as he's driving down the road, and it's noisy and everything, and we just, we had a good day. And as he's driving down the road, he's shifting through gears, 4 on the floor. The bus is jerking, and there's not really anything to hold on to. And as he's shifting from a stoplight into second to third gear, the back door, I'm thrown up against the back door, that exit door, and and I fall, and it pops open, and I fall out as he's driving. Yeah. And I hit my back on the trailer hitch. I bounce underneath the trailer. And at that moment, I remember thinking, I can't believe I'm falling out of this bus. Things seemed to slow down for me at that point when I was falling backwards. I was like, I can't believe I'm falling out of this bus. I was actually grabbing, which is instinct. And my girlfriend that was in front of me was 5 months pregnant. So thank goodness I didn't grab onto her. And so I'm underneath the trailer. I bounce on my side underneath the trailer. And at that point, I say in my head, I know exactly what's going to happen. I yell in my head as loud as I can, "Stop, you're killing me." And that's when the tire of the trailer ran over my head, my neck and my head. I just knew it was going to happen. And I popped out of my body at that point. And I'm floating above my body. And as soon as I'm realizing what's happening, what had happened, my thoughts were, okay, well, I just died. It did happen. I just died. And I feel this peace, this acceptance and peace. I knew I had done this many times. It wasn't anything that I was afraid of or that I hadn't done before. I just knew that I've done this. And I was looking down at my body, and I actually saw a commuter bus driving up, and I'm thinking, I hope that doesn't run over my physical body, because that would really make a mess in one of those big buses. And I also thought, you know, my friends, we all had such an amazing day. This is really going to ruin their day. Here I go and die on them. That was my thought. Here I go and die on them. It was my friend's birthday. She's not going to want to celebrate her birthday. All those types of thoughts. I thought about my partner at the time, and I thought, oh, he'll be fine. And I was remembering, and I was actually like seeing this. Well, he'll be fine. He'll be sad at first, but he'll be fine. And then I thought about my sister, who I was really close to. I said, well, she has her family. She has two boys and her husband. She'll be really sad at first, but she'll be fine. And then I thought about my mom, who I kind of took care of. And when I thought about my mom, I felt a presence behind me. And I turned, and it was my stepdad. And I, I was really happy to see him. I had seen him a couple times in my out of bodies as I was practicing with that. Uh, so I knew he was okay. I got my answer that he was okay and he still lived on. But it wasn't um, communications like I wanted. But at least I knew that. But he did come to me when I called for him. But to see him in that state, I was really, really happy to see him. And he said to me, he telepathed to me telepathically. He said, it's not your time. And I was like, what do you mean it's not my time? I want to stay here with you. I want to be here. And we had that conversation, and he was telling me, or intuiting to me, that I my mother needed me, that I was going to help her in her transition, and also that, which I ended up doing a year later, and also that I was still needed on the planet, and I still argued with him. So as he's as he's telling me this, I turn, I feel movement on my right again, and there's this portal that opens up, and I call it the ancestor portal. I see that, and I see my ancestors within the portal. And There are people that I recognize on the plane, but also people on this plane, on the earth plane, but also people that I recognize there, but I wouldn't have recognized here as my ancestors. So it went back quite a ways. And I'm being drawn to that portal. And as I'm being drawn to it, I see another portal open in the distance, and it's as bright and it looks like the sun, yellow gold, beautiful, beautiful, bright uh, tunnel or portal, as bright as the sun, but it didn't hurt my eyes. And I see this, and I focus on that, and I don't focus on the ancestor tunnel. And as I focus on that, being drawn to it. I see a figure walk out of the portal, and the figure is in a white robe, and as he comes near to me, I recognize him as Jesus Christ, who I call Yeshua. And as soon as I recognized him, I flew to him because I missed him so badly. I did not even remember how badly I missed him until that moment. Because being raised Catholic, I went to some years of Catholic school. We were taught that we can't really forge our own connection with Yeshua, with Jesus. It has to be through the priests or nuns and stuff like that. And the nuns, I don't remember a lot of nice nuns when I went to Catholic school. I remember a couple of kind of mean ones. That's just my experience. Those are the ones that stand out, right? And so, not saying that there aren't any, no, there are, but that was my experience in my childhood. So I flew to him, and he held me in his arms, and he said, the first thing he said was, "It's not your time," intuited to me. And uh, I said, "But I want to stay with you. I need," it was like, "I need to be with you," type of thing. And we were communicating. He laughed, the best sound ever. I mean, his laughter, what else? I mean, it's just the best sound, the most amazing sound. And I describe it a lot better in my writings, but just the best sound ever. And his eyes are, the way I saw them, were bright blue, bright blue. And it seems to me that I just felt and I knew that they held the universe within his eyes. That was his eyes. Whew. And he, as he held me, I didn't feel any, how do you say this? I didn't feel any worry. The things we worry about here, the guilt, whatever we hold in our physical uh, being here in our mind or ego, that all went away. It all went away, of feeling unworthy of being with him. Um, that was something I had to deal with coming back though later, but there with him. And as he held me, I started merging with him. And this part is hard to describe. I felt emerging, and I could not tell the difference between him and me. I was in pure light, pure love at that point, and I feel that that had a lot to do with my body being healed. In that space, I stayed in that space for I don't know how long, and he asked me then. He asked me if I would like to go on a journey with him. I guess he needed to try to talk me into going back somehow. So so I said, of course. And he put out his hand, and I took his hand, put my hand in his, and that right there, that feeling his hand on my hand uh, was an amazing experience in itself, because it felt so more more the senses are really heightened in the higher planes, and I could feel every line, every crevice in his hand. And I equate being here in this plane, that we have like a glove over our senses, and in the dense plane that we exist in, or that we were focused in. And so I took his hand. As soon as I took his hand, all this is kind of happening at once, and you've probably interviewed enough near-death experiences to know that there's no time there. It's hard to put things in linear because we want to understand it in linear time fashion. So I took his hand and we went through the cosmos. And I say lots of times, or the cosmos went through us. I don't know the difference. I don't know. I just know that there was movement, and I saw stars and planet lights flying by and just holding on to his hand. And then I see off in the distance a blue, what looks like a blue sun. And as we near it, I see that it's some kind of a portal. And so we dive into that portal. And when we come out, we're in another space, in a dark expanse or space, and I see what looks like a planetoid or a planet, and it's the blue turquoise color. And we dive down close to that. And as we near it, I know I'm remembering that I belong to this planet. This is a home for me. And I belong to this planet. My matrix is connected to this planet, my personal matrix, the planetary matrix. And I actually become the, or merge with the consciousness of the planet. And I realize that I'm seeing or being the body of the planet. And I have so much love and care for every sense, everything on my body, all the, every being, every being, everything on my body. And I feel this immense love for everything on my body, and I feel the love for me, from as my body, from every being on the planet as well. So I'm in that space for a little bit, and I also am connected to my I become connected to my and this is what I don't share a lot because it was really emotional for me at, at the time and afterwards when I was processing my experience, what we would call a twin soul, or the my counterpart. I was experiencing it as the mother planet, the mother, and I came in contact with the father, the masculine. So I was experiencing it as the feminine. I came in contact in the masculine with me, and I sensed from him that he missed me just as much as I missed him, which is me, Sharon, which would be a part, it's like a part of us is missing. So after communing with that experience for a little while, then we end up that I remember myself as the Sharon I am here, although remembering myself as the being on the planet as an aquatic being. I forgot to mention this was an aquatic being, aquatic planet, a water planet. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. And so we dive in to the water, to the ocean, an ocean planet. We dive in, and I'm reacquainted with my family there beneath the depths of the ocean, and I remember myself in that realm as a aquatic being, which which made a lot of sense to me because I was always attracted to dolphins and the ocean and all kind of aquatic beings and mermaids and that type of thing. So after that, there was quite a bit there that I brought forward. After that, I made a deal with Yeshua. Okay, I'll go back to Earth if you promise me that I will know you, that you are with me, next to me throughout my life and always and forever and ever and ever. That I won't be the blinders, take off the blinders, so to speak. And I know that you're there with me and you're there right by my side always. And I know it. I'm aware of it in my awareness. And he said, deal. And then I'm back.
That was an incredible experience. Did you have pain in your body when you came back? Yeah.
Yes. I'm back on in the middle of the road, and and I and I'm just back. And I've heard a lot of people express that that it was boom, it was a really hard um, integration into the physical body. Mine wasn't as difficult. It was a just like like somebody had slapped me, right? Slapped me back in. So I'm back, and I don't remember anything at that point. I just want to get out of the middle of the road because I see a commuter bus coming toward me. That's when I see it. Um, I get up, I run to the side of the road, and the bus stops, and the bus that had was carrying us stopped up the road about a block up the road because he didn't even know I fell out, and it was so noisy that he didn't know people were screaming at him to stop. Finally, he got the message, and uh, and so he stopped, and my friends jumped out and came over to me, and the bus driver called an ambulance, and I went to the hospital. They took me to the hospital. They had me on a spine stabilizer just to make sure that my spine was okay. And they x-rayed me. They did all the things they needed to do. I was bleeding from my ear, so they thought I might have a concussion, but I didn't. It was just my ear head was kind of crunched up and falling apart, so they glued my ear back together. And I didn't have anything broken, nothing, no concussion or anything like that. Just a lot of road rash, muscle damage, ligament damage, and I do have to, my back. I do have to maintain, and I use one of those stretch. What do you call it? Where you hang upside down, where you stretch your spine. Because if I don't, and I'm using, my back too much, then I do feel a lot of pain.
Well, that's a miracle in itself that you didn't sustain more severe injuries, though your injuries were nothing to be laughed at. You didn't
Mhm.
break anything, you didn't damage your brain. That's a
Well, I
miracle.
don't know about that, but
Well, you seem fine to me, I'll tell you that.
I'm kidding. Well, it just proves we joked about it afterwards, just proves that I have a pretty hard head. And they were joking with me at the hospital too, that I had tire tracks across my head. My hair was falling out on both sides of my head. So I have, I had all these bald spots, and I was basically bedridden for a couple weeks and was off work for a couple months during my recovery. Yeah.
Wow. And so you said you didn't remember what had happened. How did that unfold for you?
I started having out of body experiences where I was a lot of different out of body experiences where I was flying toward a sun, but as soon as I I couldn't ever get to it. I'd come back before I'd get to it. And I didn't understand what that was all about. But every time I'd come out and try to get to the sun, I take that back. I knew that once I get to that sun, I'd be with God. I knew I'd be with God. And so I tried really hard to get to that sun without and keep my lucidity, but it didn't work until later. And also Yeshua was showing up in my out of bodies, but he wasn't really saying anything to me. I wasn't able to bring all the information back, and I'd come back. And also I was traveling to an ocean world and seeing myself as a mermaid, an aquatic being, things like that. I mean, at one time I'm just pop out of my body. I mean, I call them reality shifts now because they happen so often. And I'm underwater, and I had to teach myself to be able to breathe underwater as because I'm conscious as me. And I'm looking, there's a dolphin in front of me, and he's bobbing his head to look down. So I look down, and I look down, and I see myself as this aquatic female being, just like a mermaid, just exactly like that. I mean, it's just more real than this. And I'm nursing a little tiny baby. Yeah. And it's like, whoa. And I'm shocked because I'm seeing it as me. So I'm, moving in and out of these realities, and the memories are coming back slowly. And then when my mother passed, she actually brought him to me after she passed because I was talking to her. I was working on my mediumship or psychic abilities and mediumship abilities with her because I missed her really bad too. And so I was talking to her on a spirit board, and I'd sit out every day in my backyard and talk with her. And I know people say, "Oh, oh," but it's just another tool. It's a tool. Kids should not be using them, definitely. And they're sold in toy stores, which is crazy, crazy. You need to know what you're doing, and you also need to protect yourself if you use any kind of a tool and you want to talk to spirit. So that's what I was doing, and I was having conversations with her every day out in my backyard in San Antonio. And her and I would talk just like we do because we talked every day. And one day, didn't take long, where she says, "I have someone here I want you to meet that I want to bring in." And I felt the presence of a very powerful being, and it made me nervous because I felt so much love. It's like I couldn't handle it, you know? I couldn't handle it. It was just too much. So what I did was I just started asking her about him, about who he was. And I said, "Okay, is he like an ascended master?" Because that's about the time I started learning about ascended masters and things like that. Because I didn't know any of this stuff. And she said he's top shelf. That's what she called him. Like, "Oh, well, that sounds cool. Okay." And so I'd ask questions about him. Then one day I said, "All right, Mom, you can bring him in. All right, I'll talk to him. I'll talk to Jesus." Okay. Of course, I didn't know who he was at that time. And so I felt her energy move out and his energy move in. And the love that I felt was so overwhelming. Excuse me. I was in tears for 2 weeks straight, all the time. All the time. I mean, it was just probably a fraction of what he had gifted me with when I was with him, and I believe that that's what helped heal my body when I was with him in my near death experience. And so I started working with him. I couldn't wait to talk to him every day after work. I'd sit there and talk to him every day. And it took a little bit for him to convince me who he was. And then I promised him I would be in my room in meditation every night at 9 p.m. and sit there with him. In my room, my bedroom became my classroom. And he taught me so much. And that's how I started remembering it through deep meditation, through him working with me, through my out of body experiences. And I started piecing things together. And sometimes the memories would just come up. And that's when I remembered my first NDE at the age of 9, was when he was working with me, doing a basic life review, because I started having memories going all the way back to the galactic wars, and it wasn't easy. And he helped me to integrate traumatic experiences and lifetimes from starting with my childhood. It started there, and other lifetimes that I had um, lost lost children actually in a lifetime during the Civil War, and that was a really big one for me. And a lot of other traumatic lifetimes he helped me heal.
Making good on his promise to let you know that he was with you.
He sure did, yeah.
Did you have a big experience like this one in your first near death experience, or was that one different?
It was different, yes. It was it was big, but I went back to being a little girl and dealing with, I didn't remember it, obviously. And I realized I didn't remember a lot of my childhood because there was abuse involved. I was being abused, and by an extended family member and others. And so in some kind of a weird thing. Uh, so in this one memory that came up, I mean, when I have these memories, so when I was having these memories of my childhood where the abuse was happening, or, I'm just taken there. I'm there, and I can smell the vomit, those types of things, because that's what happened. That's what I did. I could feel the pain, and because I repressed it all, when that's what happens when we, especially as a child, we repress it. We disassociate. so I was remembering these experiences, and in this one in particular was when I was being abused, and uh, uh, I was being beat, okay, and he hit me so hard underneath my ribs at one point, and I was trying to get away from him. Most of the time I'd go catatonic, but this time I was trying to get away from him, and he hit me so hard underneath my ribs that I felt, and as I'm remembering this, I felt this excruciating pain. It was excruciating for just a second, and then after that second, I pop out of my head, out of my body again, and this time I'm floating in a dark expanse. It's dark. And I didn't talk about this for a long time because I thought, this is weird. I'm in the darkness. I didn't understand it, but it wasn't dark, scary dark. It was just wasn't, there wasn't light. It was dark. And I realized after I processed that too, it took me a little while to process everything with that experience. That I was in what some people now call the void. I've heard people call it the void. And I had this experience or remembering that in this space, how do I put it? Uh, I began to experience and feel some kind of music, but it wasn't, it was, it was a symphony, and it was uh, so beautiful and in tune. I knew that this is where everything is in balance. If anything went out of balance here, there was something, a tune or a tone or something, something would put it in balance over here. I knew that this is the place of total balance in this void. So I began to lose my awareness as me, as the little girl, and became part of this expanse and part of the, and I knew that anything that within my mind or within my, yeah, I was just the mind that was out of balance, something would come up to balance it right away. As I'm experiencing this, I see a light to my right again, and I start to contract again. So I'm expanded and I'm contracted. I start to contract back to me as the little girl, and I see this portal getting larger and larger, and then I see a being moving out of that portal, and I'm righted. I'm a little girl again, and it's Jesus approaching me again, or first, first, and and it was different when I was a little girl because it wasn't that long before I had been with him before that, okay, when I'd come to reincarnate. And he says to me, "You've suffered enough, my child. You don't have to go back." And I told him, "But I want to go back. I didn't finish my what I was supposed to do." I actually wanted to go back, which is very different than in 2001, where I fought him, but he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes." And that's when I was back.
In your second experience, I want to talk about the aquatic life
Hmm.
for a
Sure.
minute. Uh, is that the place where you came from, or is that a place where you are and this is a dream, or how does that life fit into your current life?
So what I understand is that since we are multidimensional and we can access many, many of our life expressions, right? This is one of my expressions that's currently still going on. It's not really a past life, it's a current life. And in another realm, in another dimension, another frequency, I guess you could call it. And so it's I know, right? It's it's something that what he told me is that once I finish my mission on Earth, I can, if I choose, can go to that lifetime, have most of my focus, my soul focus in that space where I am there physically, have that experience in a physical embodiment like I do now, where I'm focused in that space. Does that make sense? Where this part of me is also focused there with that part of me.
Hmm. So when you die, where will your awareness go? Do you know? Will it go to the aquatic planet or
If I
another?
choose to,
Oh,
yeah. And I believe that we are moving up in frequencies, so we can actually access all kinds of experiences. And I've done that in my out of body experiences where I access all kinds of different avatars, I guess you could say, of a life, of an experience, an expression of who I am in other realms, in other worlds, on other planets. And we actually have that ability within us. It's been programmed out of us. We forgot. And Barbara Marciniak wrote a book called the Bringers of the Dawn, the Pleiadians, who talk about this. That one day we're going to be able to access that part of us and have those memories, but they're more than memories. They're awarenesses of other parts of our soul, because we're a soul aspect of our greater soul, what I've learned and what I understand now. And we're a soul aspect of our greater soul, and our greater soul has many, many life experiences that we are taking part in this infinite expression of God, of source.
it's fascinating.
Isn't it? I love it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really is. It's a lot to wrap our minds around, or my mind anyway, being in
it
this
is.
very small and finite incarnation. Um, but just so amazing. I'd love to hear about it. And the possibilities are endless.
Hmm.
Um, at any point during any of your experiences, your first near death or your second near death experience, did you lose the awareness of Sharon, or were you always you?
Yes, I do remember, or not, I shouldn't say remember, but I felt that, well, I remember in my meditations, but yes, I lost the awareness of Sharon on the water planet, in the water planet. They had to keep bringing me back during my meditations because I wanted to stay there. I was actually making sounds like a myrrh, the siren sound, things like that. I was making those sounds just involuntarily coming out of me during my meditations. Um, and as the little girl, when I was in that expanded void, I had lost my awareness of as a little girl, as Sharon, and they're like my nickname. But yes, I had lost that momentarily. I don't know how long that was. I mean, we're eternal, so I believe I was part of eternity there for just a moment or however long, and then Yeshua, Jesus is like, oh, we got to go get her. She has work to do, although, and I did tell him, I remember that too, is I didn't want to have to start over, because and that meant reincarnate to start over with my mission, because our every every lifetime we live is part of our mission, not just one life. And Jesus, Yeshua says we have one life but many bodies.
And I want to go back to your stepfather for a minute if we
Mhm.
can.
Sure.
After he died, you said you started having out of body experiences.
Mhm.
And I relate to that because after my husband died, I too also started having out of
Oh.
body experiences. Were these just spontaneous? And tell me about what you felt or saw during your out of body experiences.
Oh gosh, I've journaled over 2,000 since then. However, and I teach classes on it now because it's like, wow, this is what we need to do to realize our true potential in our multidimensional selves. But it started out with sleep paralysis, and do you know what sleep paralysis is?
Oh, yes, I have that as well.
Okay, yeah, it can be scary if you don't know what it is. And I didn't know what it was, and so I thought I was dying. It's where you enter that state of paralysis where you think you can't you can't scream out for your audience if they don't know, or you can't yell out, you can't scream out, and you're paralyzed. And and you feel a presence in the room. Perhaps I felt a presence in the room. I felt as if someone was sitting on the bed next to me, um, things like that. And I realized afterwards that's my astral body. It's my astral body coming in or leaving. So it's when we wake up before the phenomenon which we all have of sleep paralysis goes away, because we're waking up, because our body goes into that paralyzed state, so we don't act out our dreams. And again, I thought I was dying. I didn't understand it. Nobody in my circles understood it, my family or anything or knew what it was. They weren't experiencing that. And so I went on the internet and looked for anything that could give me some answers. And then I realized, oh, I'm having out of body experiences. Yeah. And then I got my hand, and it also said that one of the benefits of out of body experiences is to be able to connect with to your loved ones and communicate with your loved ones on the other side. So I'm like, okay, well, this is how I can find my dad. And so I started studying everything I get my hands on. That's the way I am about out of body experiences, all the classics back then, Robert Monroe, William Buhlman, Robert Peterson, and everything. I did the exercises every single night, and I still do them. I still travel on a regular basis consciously, and it took me about 6 weeks to where I was able to consciously leave my body. I actually believe we're actually going within. We're not going out, but we're going into the copy. And so I was able to leave my body, and I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And I'm standing next to my bed. So it took about 6 weeks. And then I got a little bit more brave and moved out of my room and into the rest of the house, and then jumping up on the roof and things like that, to where I just started getting better at it, and we're able to consciously control them. And now I mean, there's just so many things. I found my dad. I've communicate with my guides all the time. Gone to many, many, many planets. I find myself on starships. I see myself as all kinds of beings. I'm seeing lots of extraterrestrial beings on these starships, and I started seeing gray beings when I was remembering my childhood experiences, and I saw grays, three grays, helping me out of these experiences. And that's another story all in itself. But out of these violent experiences, these gray beings would show up and heal my bodies. So, um, yeah, there's lots and lots of experiences that I've had that we can all have them. I'm not anyone special. I just am more determined.
Do you feel like the death of your stepdad kind of initiated these experiences?
Hmm.
Do you think
Yeah,
he
I do.
actually initiated them?
Um, I think my desire to know that he was all right initiated them. That's what I believe. Yeah. So I started diving in, and things happen when you start having that desire. And as you may know, when you lose someone close to you, things change. Yeah. And you want answers.
That's beautiful. I find it really interesting that we had similar experiences after a loved one passed.
Is that when you started having out of body experiences when your
I had
husband
never even
passed?
heard of them before.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't
Yeah.
know what was happening to me either. And I went to a
Mm.
spiritual church and they told me. I went to them to ask what was happening to me because it didn't see it seemed like a spiritual experience. I thought that he was just coming to talk to me, but anyways,
That's
um
amazing.
I have not met anyone else that had a similar experience, so it's really very especially interesting to talk to you about it having had something similar. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
glad
very cool.
I'm glad we got this opportunity. Um, and I want to talk to you just briefly. we're running a little bit out of time.
Mhm.
We still have about 10 minutes, but
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you about how has this changed? I know you were raised Catholic and in a religious household. Has this changed the way that you view death at all, or religion, or how we live our lives here in this American culture?
Right. It it hasn't really changed my view on religion because I didn't really abide by the Catholic teachings anyway. But I knew in my heart and soul that something wrong with this. But as far as death, yes, I know now that we don't die, and my out of body experiences teach me that too. But my two near death experience, of course, I know that we don't die. We just change form. There is no death. Death just means change. And so, yes, that helped me realize that I'm not afraid to die. I, of course, don't want any pain with it, but I don't want it to be tragic. Well, hey, if you go quickly, that's good. Death is the one thing that we all do, but nobody wants to talk about it, right? Yeah. So we all have that in common, and we just don't die. We just change form. And as far as my spiritual outlook on life, yes, that changed tremendously. I think I had it. Well, I mean, I had it all in me anyway. It's just a matter of bringing it forward, of seeing life through a different lens, where I realize that everything pretty much is sentient, everything, and I try to honor everything as much as possible. And it's definitely deepened my relationship with Jesus, with Yeshua, and that I'm not in a religious way at all, because he is not religious. And he's the opposite. Yeah. Um, so he's my everything. And I was brought back to his love and his guidance and his, so that, yeah, that right there has changed me completely.
Do you have a sense of oneness with the world, with others?
Hmm. Yeah, that he taught me that in the very beginning. Remember, help me remember. We're just remembering, right? That everyone is a part of us. We are a part of everyone, and we are all one. And each part of us is another. mm, I guess you could say, because I do integration work. So as we integrate other aspects of ourselves, we're integrating other aspects of other selves too. Does that make any sense?
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're all about integration. What it's about and what he's here for is to help us integrate. And I see him as the master integrator, where he's integrating us into the one once we have that awareness, and we do our part to help integrate our lost parts that are caught in suffering. Ooh, and I want to cry with that. And so we're helping to integrate our lost, those lost parts, and we're all one. We're all lost in some way, and we're finding our way back home. Yeah, so it's about integration.
You have a special agreement with Jesus, so it might be a little easier for you. But if my viewers wanted to have a connection, what do you recommend?
Oh yeah, all they have to do is ask, open up. Yeah, and just let him know. And I would sit in quiet, excuse me, quiet time in meditation, and ask him to come. And believe me, he doesn't disappoint. He'll be there. He's with all of us. All we have to do is turn our attention to him.
And you touched briefly on a book that you have coming out. You have another book already out. Can you tell me about those?
Yes, we have the compilation book, which was just released on the 22nd. It's called Death, a compilation of transformative near-death experiences. So 14 of us uh, shared some of our near-death experiences in as much as we could in 3,500 words or less, right? in this book. And so there's some amazing experiences in this book, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. Yeah, it's on Amazon. And right now it's on sale. The copy is on sale for $15. I saw
Wow,
Amazon
that's a
does that.
deal,
Yeah, that's a good deal.
especially for a hardcover. And you have a personal story that's coming out as well. Is that correct?
I do. Yes, I just turned in my manuscript to the publisher, to the same publisher, Near Death Institute, and it's 10 years in the making, where I share a, a lot of my journey from from when my dad passed and my encounter with Yeshua and my near death and the water world and everything, the aftermath, because people who have transformative spiritual transformative experiences, you don't have to have an NDE. We have that experience, and then there's so much more that afterwards normally that we don't really have words to talk. We don't share that part of it very much. And so uh I journal everything. So the book is a really, for me, for my healing journey, and also to share with people, and hopefully my experiences, which was not easy after my ND. It was not easy. I went through a really big dark night of the soul. It was dark, and remembering I was being abused and the galactic wars and way back and things that you know we're starting to remember, but it wasn't easy. I'll say that. I had anxiety and panic attacks on a regular basis, and so I share some of that journey, the ups and the downs, and more ups, and how I came out all right.
I'd say so. And you're providing a lot of beautiful resources to others to help them heal their lives and live a better life just in general,
Thank
and
you.
helping to heal that fear that we have of death,
Yeah,
which is so pervasive and it can be so painful, especially when we lose a loved one.
yeah, totally. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, in the Western world, we're not really taught how to die, are we? And so, my goal is to help us remember we don't die, and teach us how to die, how to change from this reality into another.
Yeah. Well, like you
Yeah.
said, death is a taboo subject and you're doing amazing work to help change that. So, thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
And if my viewers wanted to reach out to you if they had questions, how can they find you?
Yes, they can go to my website, which is sharonsananda.com, SharonSananda.com. And they can get a hold of me there.
And you have a YouTube channel as well, is that correct?
I do. Ascension Gateway. I would love to talk to you on my channel.
I would love to come
Yay!
on and talk to you. That would be
Okay.
my honor.
Awesome.
Well, Sharon, you've been a blessing. I've enjoyed this very much. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure and my honor.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.